After more than 50 years' success in the opera business, including his former position as general director of Lyric Opera in Chicago, my guest, William Mason, has agreed to serve as artistic advisor for San Diego's opera for the next 6 months. William Mason, welcome to Evening Edition.
My pleasure, thank you.
Now, the 2015-2016 cast are already booked. The
Pretty
operas
much
are
all
booked.
set, yes.
Yeah, what will you be doing in your role as artistic advisor since those are already set?
Well, there's still some things to be finalized. There's some small roles to be cast, there's some productions to be decided, and I'll be taking a look at some of the budgets to see if there's money to be saved or to maybe reallocate some of the resources.
Well, as you know, because you're here, there's been a lot of turmoil in San Diego's
Yes,
opera
indeed.
company in the last couple of months. What are some of your top priorities?
Well, my top priorities are getting those seasons set in place and then starting an ongoing discussion with the board and the staff as to how this company continues, how it looks forward to the future. I think I've been very impressed with the board members that I've met so far, the remaining board members, and the members of the staff who I'm enjoying working with enormously. And I think it's a wonderful group of people who will create something new out of all this. I've jokingly referred to this as San Diego Opera 2. And I think the future is very bright for the company.
And how are you getting to know these people? Because you haven't worked with them before.
No, never. Well, I had a nice informal dinner with some of the board members last week, and then we've had, with the staff, I've had staff meetings pretty much every day that I've been here. So through those conversations, I'm getting to know people and getting an idea of what their ideas are for the future.
Taking stock. Back in March, on March 19th, I believe, the opera board looked at finances, and basically the operas planned and decided. They said that there wasn't enough money to go forward without going into debt. What do you think about that decision?
Well, it was stunning for all of us in the opera world, and I think it was a big mistake. I think the company has no accumulated debt, and you're talking about a company that had a full-time roster of 40 people. You have another couple hundred people who gained employment from this. They spent money while they were working here. People came into the city to see the operas. They spent money parking, having dinner. The economic impact on the community was in the tens of millions of dollars. So I don't think you just lightly toss that aside and throw in the towel and think that you're doing the right thing. I think that's delusional. I think there's every obligation to fight to continue to keep those people employed and to keep that money coming into the community. In addition, I think opera is a wonderful thing, and I think a community that has an opera company and loses it is losing something very important.
Do you have any direct plans right away on how to stabilize as far as this financial plan?
No, because there's a lot of things I'm not familiar with in this community in terms of where the fundraising might come from, and I don't know what the taste of the public is. But the people who work here and the people who are on that board do, and that's a question of them getting together and making those determinations, new ideas to be thought about. When does the public perform? Where does the public perform? What does it perform? There's a lot of new avenues to be explored.
In speaking of which, the former artistic director said that anything other than a grand opera on stage would actually sacrifice quality. Do you agree with that? And do you think there are ways to do quality maybe that aren't so grand?
Absolutely, absolutely. I disagree with the statement entirely, and I think that there's a lot of things to be done. You know, we did Gilbert and Sullivan in Chicago in the season and postseason things. We've done Showboat in Oklahoma with some other Rogers and Hammerstein coming up. There's a wealth of new material out there. I don't think there's any company in this country today that thinks it can get by only doing traditional grand opera.
One issue I know that you've just touched on is facing all opera companies today is how do you sell opera as an artistic venue or an option to a public who has so many other choices these days?
It's not an easy task, but you start with some level of outreach, getting out into the community, into the schools. I don't know, I've not been here long enough to know exactly what is being done, but I know there's a lot of wonderful ideas that have been tossed around in these staff meetings that I've had. And I think the more you expose people to that, the better it is. Also, if all you're doing is just grand opera, you're reaching a small part of the community. But if you start getting out and doing other things, not only are you bringing other people, making other people aware of what the opera company is, but you're making them, as I say, aware that it exists in the community, as opposed to it being a very narrow part of the community that even knows there's an opera company. And so I think that the more you do that, the more you make the community realize how important this company is to the community.
And that's my last question to you. Is there anything you would want to tell San Diegans coming in from Chicago about opera in general and the changes headed our way?
I think opera, of course, I'm a little prejudiced. I think opera is the most wonderful thing there is. It's a fusion of art, music, dance, theater, you know, the visual aspect. There's nothing like it. There's just nothing like it. And I think this company is well poised to go into the future, and I'm very sanguine about its prospects.
All right, San Diego Opera Artistic Advisor Bill Mason, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.